I guess, well, being 9 o'clock now, we can call a April 7th, 2021 meeting of the Municipal Building Committee to order. I just have one thing to read. It says pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Municipal Building Committee is being conducted by remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by turning into Westborough TV. We have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 3rd, 2021 meeting.
So moved. This is Ian.
We have a second. Is anybody seconding that? I think, Jim, you're muted over there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did one correction to the minutes. There was just one spot there under Forbes building where it says tile size was different, slightly larger. It was actually slightly smaller. I know it's a small detail, but the tiles that were put up were smaller, and that's what made the grout lines look bigger and everything like that. So that was the only correction that I found.
Okay, Enza, can you take care of that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, with that correction in there, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any questions or comments beside that? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ian?
Johnson, yes.
Jim Stewart?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
Al Gordon, yes, that's unanimous. Okay, we'll now turn the meeting over to Peter.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee members. Jonathan Ennis is also on the call. Anybody else? Fred? Brian? Just want to go through the list here. Item 3, just some project updates, both previous business, closeout status, and then some new business. With respect to the punch list, when we last met back on March 3rd, on Friday, March 5th, the building commissioner, the facilities director, and the OPM walked the project punch list and provided an update, which is shown right here. You may have seen this punch list that was issued based on the March 5th walkthrough. We did add 1 or 2 items to it based on our observations. As you can see there on row 13, we added that one, which is the radiant heat panels. The contractor, 5-Star, responded yesterday with respect to the punch list. I have not had a chance to review it with the building facilities director and the building commissioner, but I will and get back to everybody. Is there any questions? Or Jonathan, if you're on the call, do you want to add anything?
No, other than what was included in the response, that many of these issues that are still being considered open have been addressed and completed. So once you have a chance to review our response, we'd like this updated to reflect that.
Jesus, why does it take so long to do anything there?
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Chairman, from the committee or yourself?
I just saw Fred join. I don't know if you have any questions for him, Peter.
Good morning, Fred. Just we're talking about the punch list and the walkthrough that we performed on March 5th, as shown here on the screen. And the contractor has responded. We have a letter here yesterday from the contractor on the punch list. I'll share it if it hasn't been shared. And I will respond accordingly after speaking with yourself, Mr. Fred and Jim.
And Al, this is Ian. I just have a question on some of the materials we saw, but I guess on that radiant, specifically on the radiant heat panels falling out, is that, I mean, when was that inspected? Is that just, you know, shifting over time? Or I guess I was unclear as to whether these were, is this was new or never signed off on and now we have issues, or is it something that, was signed off on a couple of years ago and now we're seeing issues with it? So just more clarification. I apologize since I'm new to the committee, just trying to get some clarification on it.
It's a new thing.
I can step in on that, Peter. So Ian, the panels themselves, it would have been the plumbing inspector that would be signing off on that. However, I don't believe, when he comes in to inspects, he's doing the whole building. It's not just one specific little area. And to be honest with you, if he signed off if the plumbing inspector did sign off on it, I don't know if he physically got up on a ladder and looked above the ceiling to see the way these things are installed, or did he just check a couple of different locations? There's one location in the building we're having issues. It's in the back. We call it the Galley Hallway in the back of the police station. And during our investigation on why are these things falling out of the ceiling, because it was the whole length of that hallway. There's 5 separate panels that were coming down. During our investigation on why is this happening, we tried at first just putting them back up and they would fall out again. So we got a little deeper into it. Getting access above there is not easy. There's one location that there's a small, probably 18 by 18 inch hole that we were able to get our phone in there and take a picture of what was going on above the ceiling there. And what we found is very inconsistent to the specifications and the plans on the way that those units were supposed to be put in. So to answer your question about the inspection, that would be done during I don't know, at a certain stage of the plumbing. Maybe Fred, could say how that would work out, but they don't go, a building that size, he does not check every single fixture and every single spot in the whole building. I think it's just, he looks at some stuff and then, okay, we sign off on it. Now, as far as anybody else signing off on it, during the project, did the OPM look at it? Did anyone from 5-Star look at it? 5-Star, what I understand, are the ones that put it in. So I'm sure they know how it was put in. And I can tell you, it's not by the specifications that is shown here on Pete's screen right now. That's not the way that those panels are set up. There are no guide wires holding them up that is in the specifications. Each panel is supposed to have 2, and there is not. And we have photo evidence of that, which Peter will probably put up on the screen and show you. But as far as being signed off on, that would be with the plumbing inspector. That would be the person that was inspecting that.
Well, great, Jim, and thank you. You actually answered my follow-on question already, which was that you got pictures and basically it looks like the installation, in your view, the installation wasn't done properly. So whether it was signed off or not, it's really...
Right, and Peter, I'm sure in his presentation probably has those pictures to show everyone. There's one right there. That is the one and only guide that's supposed to hang there. And if you look the way that they installed it, they actually wrapped it around the copper radiant heat tubing that was in the back of the panel. So when those panels fell out of the ceiling, it actually pulled that copper right out of the radiant heat panel. And there's other photos that'll show down the length of that whole corridor. There's the cable that was the only support cable. That's looking down the whole corridor. Those were all the radiant heat panels. And as you can see, there are no other guide wires. There's supposed to be 2 per unit, and they're not there. That's the only one. And it's the way that it's attached to that radiant heat panel. There are no channels that are attached on the back that the guide wires were supposed to go into. None of it, per the specifications of the plans that I've seen, indicate that that's the way that they were put in. Now, why that was missed during inspection, that I don't know. Maybe that area that is awfully high. Maybe Bob didn't want to get up there. He chose a lower one. I don't know. But it's evident that there's no doubt that they're falling out of the ceiling. We've gone up and made temporary repairs to make sure that doesn't happen, but that's what we're looking at above that ceiling right there.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Yep.
Can I ask a question, Al? Peter.
Go ahead, Peter.
So if they put these panels up and they're supposed to hang them, and once the panels are in place, how would the inspectors be able to see the hanging mechanism? I don't know who can answer this, but that's my question. Because I'm thinking that once this goes up, he wouldn't be able to see this stuff anyways, unless he can get up in that little hole and look down the line that you just talked about. That'd be my question, because if that's the case, then it wasn't done right, and it's, you know, he's doing the best inspection he can do based on not being able to get up and get into the guts of these things. That's just my question.
Well, I would agree with you, Peter, that it's very, very difficult to access any of these radiant heat panels, never mind these particular ones in the back alleyway. It's a nightmare, and we kind of knew that going in, and I think 5 Star on all the different levels made their best attempt to give us as much access as we can, but the bottom line is it's very, very limited, and you know, this is the only place in the building that they're falling out, so I'm not going to say the whole building is done this way, but I do know this particular hallway where these panels are, they're all falling out of the ceiling, and the reason is because they're not supported, the channels aren't there, there's no wires, there's nothing.
Hey, Jim, it's Matt with 5 Star.
Oh,
and
Matt.
yes, that area on the first floor was very difficult installation-wise. Now, when we were going for the inspections, there were cutouts in the, I'm going to say the front side of the soffits, or the locker room side of the soffits, so that the, you know, the piping and things like that, and any shut-off valves, all that could be viewed. And then it was all supposed to be closed back up, because remember, those were supposed to be more of a almost a heat plenum in order to keep the heat against the windows and not traveling up above the ceiling so much. But yeah, I think I made it pretty well known throughout the project, the issues, and that's why they tried to make, you know, ASIs and you know, and release DPRs to try to rebuild them a different way, because what we built for soffits and what were, you know, asked in the drawings weren't going to work properly with the radiant ceiling panels and just being able to, you know, use them properly. Up on your upper floors, for the most part, you have a drop ceiling to the front of them, directly to the front of them, instead of having that large, the large gap where you have downstairs, where it makes it really difficult to reach. So I know, you know, I would hope that every attempt was made with the proper guy wires, because the ceiling grid that you saw, or that was shown to me in the pictures, that ceiling grid is what they call for. They call for track and you know, wall angle and things like that. That none of that was supposed to be structural. The what was supposed to hang those units was guy wires. My trim that 5 Star installed were just supposed to be decorative to hide any seams, you know.
So, well, I guess, Matt, what I'm saying is there are no guide wires. There's one, and that's the way it was installed.
Which makes no sense, and I don't know how it didn't last as long as it did, quite honestly, because you're talking, you have sheet metal. If you're expecting sheet metal to hold, you know, 20 gallons of water on a radiant ceiling panel in a ceiling, I mean, that's crazy to me. Now I didn't get up and check each one. My work had been done, and I relied on, you know, inspections and things like that, you know. But that's you know, Adams, I hope, will provide response and deal with it how they need to deal with it. But like I said, 5 Star's involvement with putting the trim on and doing drywall, things like that. But those ceiling, you know, the ceiling grid parts were never designed to hold up the radiant ceiling panel by any means.
Well, I mean, that being said, Matt, I mean, it's evident to me because the whole length of that, they fell. When they came out the first time, we didn't know what was going on above there. We couldn't even find any access to get above there. And so we basically lifted them all back into place. It lasted about 4 days, and then they were all sagging again. And it got to the point where even the building commissioner, we were walking the building, said, you got to do something to support these, because if they come down, they're going to kill somebody, or you're going to have a flood or something in the building. When we did that, we opened up different ceiling panels trying to get access, and we did find one spot. There was still a hole in there that we were able to look in and see what was going on. And when I say look in, you couldn't fit your head through it. It was put your cell phone in there and
put your cell phone and take a video. Yeah.
Right. So
I know.
That's what we say. But I'm looking at that picture right now Peter has up, and in whose right mind would support a panel around the copper pipe that doesn't even make any sense, Matt. I mean, I think you can agree that whoever did that, that's terrible. That's
yeah, no, I agree. And like I said, Adams but Adams, I'm not sure if they've given a response to it. I'm hoping, and I'm sure that they will, to explain what they did and explain what they'll do to fix it. But I'm just going off my history of remembering what went on when we were trying to put all that stuff in there, because we had issues, even on the second floor, I think it was, where we were only going to be given 3 or 4 inches of space to be able to work with. And I said, well, how do you hang guy wire when you only have 3 inches of space above the ceiling and it's a hard ceiling in the corner? How does that even work? You can't even get a hand in there. I know that's why, they had released some of the sketches early on to try to drop those so that there was workability with them.
right. Well, okay. I didn't know who it was, if it was the plumbers or if it was Adams that was responsible for putting these in, but that back hallway is going to have to be reworked. Right now, we have it temporary supported. We put straps across in 2 locations and screwed up into the framing to support those from coming out. So it is safe back there now, but something's going to need to be done to correct this problem.
Okay, Matt, you say you have spoken with Adams?
I haven't. I'm just here for the meeting, just to be here with John. But I know John he speaks with Adams every couple of days. So.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
they've been put on notice then that there's a problem with this. So if something happens, it's on them for not getting out there and fixing it right away.
They have been notified, and I was told that it was installed properly per the specifications, which my response reflected, but these photos that are up on the screen now, for whatever reason, weren't shared. So we had no way to speak on the cables from this perspective other than what Adams was telling us. So if these had been shared, our response would have been different.
Do you have access to these pictures, John?
I do not, no. There was one picture sent with the letter from CBRE, and it did not include any interior photos.
Peter, can we share these pictures with Jonathan so he can share it with Adams?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I just have a thought on this. If Adam says he hung them as required and we see no hanging, somebody's not telling us the whole story here or telling us a different narrative of what's actually in place. I'm a little disappointed that we have these things that I don't know how we're going to have access in the future if we needed to get at a damaged shutoff or a connection of something, an electrical connection. I don't even know if there are any up there. And you're right, hanging a regular wire off a copper pipe is absolutely not legal as far as I know. So if they say this is done properly, then I don't think somebody's speaking right.
Fred, do you have any input on this?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Do you have anything to add to this?
I don't know where I begin. So, I mean, if you want to let us take the hit, I'm more than happy to say that we missed it. All the descriptions you're giving me, it'd be virtually impossible for anybody to get up there and inspect that. For the GC to say that it wasn't their responsibility and that's on somebody else, take that for what it's worth. They're supposed to run the job. When you do an inspection, you make a presumption that the trade is actually doing the correct work. So, you know, I don't know how physically Bob, me, or anybody else would have got up there and saw how that hung. Generally what happens, like when you look at ductwork and stuff, you can see how the thing is actually hung. So when you do inspections, there's a visual part of that and you can see that. You know, again, I'll take the hit for our department that we missed it, but it clearly from these pictures is not installed correctly. So if somebody's saying it is, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's just not. And that's from day one. It's curious that that area is the only area that has a problem, albeit back conversation. Now I wonder if this problem exists elsewhere in the building and we're just not aware of it.
Well, that'd be my concern as well.
Fred, I just wanted to make sure you understand. I wasn't actually, coming onto your department and looking for anybody for responsibility. That absolutely wasn't the case, because you're right. It's almost impossible to get up there. And the only reason why we even did was because we had to do something, and we did locate a hole, which gave us a visual of what was happening above there. And literally it was putting a cell phone through, because you can't even fit your head through there. So, as far as that goes, it absolutely was not, meant to say that we missed, that the building department or the inspectors missed anything, because they really didn't have access to get in there in the first place.
Well, and I didn't take it that way, but I just, from a practical matter, I don't know how anybody would have really inspected that. They would have you almost had to do this as you're in the panels. The way the panels are, I would assume you would have run the supports as you're in the panels, because there was almost no way. I mean, it looks like there's no way to get to that space once all the panels are in place. I don't know how you could have physically supported it correctly. So some of that work would have been done, presumably, before the panels went up. And obviously it didn't, because they didn't do the work. I mean, it's pretty evident that it wasn't done correctly. I don't know how you can argue otherwise.
Jim or Fred, is there any way to get up on the other floors and check those to see if they were installed in the same manner?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's going to be a pain, like Jim said, but you should be able to pop the tiles and get a tall enough ladder to kind of shimmy up there and take a picture or get your head up in there.
I think we need a full picture of what's going on here rather than just saying it's on the police side. I think, obviously, if somebody took a shortcut here, they probably did it in everything.
Mm-hmm.
There are places out, it is difficult to get into a lot of these places, but we can get a ladder in there and start looking around on all the floors and just kind of verify the way all of these panels were put in.
Right. Jim, do you think we should be blocking off that hallway in the back there? I mean, I don't think it's necessary to have it open, but is there a danger to the officers who were walking by?
We had it blocked off, Al. We had cones going down so you could walk on half of the aisle going down, say on the locker room side, because the panels are against the windows. But since we've put the supports in now and screwed up into the framing, everything's back in place. And it cannot physically fall down with these straps that we've used, aluminum straps that are screwed right up into the framing. So it cannot fall down. So the corridor is open and it is safe to walk up through there.
I'm worried about the other floors too, because if as Fred said, there's a lot of weight here. If one of those lets go, I mean, they haven't started sagging yet, but they potentially could. And it's a danger to all the other employees in the building.
Well, we'll get right on investigating this right off and see what we can find on the rest of the floors. Right now, there isn't any evidence that there's anything falling out in any other location. We have checked, but we didn't physically get above the ceiling to verify guide wires and proper installation. So we'll get on that too and take a look at it, see what we can come up with. And we'll wait for Adam's response to what we found so far.
Thanks for bringing that up, Ian. Back to you, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, we left off on 3A. We were talking about the punch list. Anything else with respect to the punch list that was issued? And as I mentioned, I'll work with the building commissioner and the facilities director and respond to the contractor's letter that was sent yesterday. We can come back to this if there's any questions that come up during the presentation, but maybe move down to the rooftop units, HVAC rooftop units 1, 2, and 3. Jonathan or Matt, anything update?
At this point, Adams is still working with the town, and we've heard that the town has had a meeting with the insurance company, and Adams informed us of that the other day. And other than that, we haven't heard of any new issues. So there's no further update in that sense. And that would, I guess, bring us into the commission log, which there is still 3 open items, and 2 of which are, 2 of the items are actually for CO2 sensors, which are still on order. And AJ Roberto has not received them yet, but as soon as they do, they'll be installed, so them 2 items can be closed. And Adams was supposed to come out on multiple occasions to put in the 2 smaller ducts in lieu of the large one, and they claim that they are going to have a guy come out tomorrow and finally complete that. So once that's done, there'll be the 2 remaining CO2 items, which will close the commissioning log with the exception of the ongoing RTU issue item.
Jim Stewart, have we had any problem with the units in the last month?
Yes. Just yesterday, rooftop 2 and 3 shut down. Danny had to go up on the roof and reset them. These are my alarms from over the weekend for those units that Peter has up on the screen right there. It's a constant. I have a log of, I believe it's 7 different occasions now that the heat is shut down throughout this winter. They usually come from a fan fault like this for rooftop 3, and then they'll shut down rooftop 2. When that goes down, I don't receive any alarms at all. So, I've been in touch with Adams. I've been in touch with Tony Roberto on this. They're aware of it, but we don't have, it doesn't seem like there's anything being done. I will speak on, I heard Jonathan say that the town has their own contractor in there. Is that what you said, Jonathan?
No, I was informed that the town had a meeting with Adams Insurance Company.
Yes.
To address a claim.
Yeah, apparently Adams has taken an insurance claim out on these rooftop units. And Friday I met with the insurance adjuster along with Wesley, the project manager from Adams, on the rooftops. He basically was there just to take some photos, and he asked me a few questions about how, the problems that we've been having in the building. He went over a few different items with Wesley, and then they left. He was there for probably 25 minutes maybe. That was it. I haven't heard anything else since then. But to answer your question, Al, yes, we are having issues, continually having issues with this unit. It's sporadic. There's no consistency, whether it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, day, night. I have the alarm log. Peters has all the documentation that I put it on a drive so that he can see this stuff too. This is just one snippet from my screen showing the alarms that came in over the weekend, and it happens constantly.
So Jonathan, the only thing that your office is aware of is missing 2 CO2 detectors. Other than that, in the perspective of 5-star, the rooftop units activity is complete?
We're speaking on the commissioning log, and there's 3 open items. And as we said, or I just said, that there's 2 smaller ducts that are to be replacing 1 large duct. That will be done. Adams told me this morning they'll have a guy out there tomorrow. And then there is one CO2 sensor that has been previously installed that was incorrect, and that's on order to be replaced. And then there was a handful of other added CO2 sensors that need to go in, and those are on order as well. So once those are received by AJ Roberto, those will complete the other commissioning log issues. And then there's the one that's been continuously open, which is addressing all ongoing RTU issues. So until Adams can pinpoint why some of these faults are happening, that issue will stay open.
Is your office aware that Adams has an insurance claim? Can you expand on that at all?
We can't. We were just informed by Adams yesterday.
What does that mean, that they have an insurance claim? What do they intend to, what are they claiming, I guess?
That I cannot speak on, Peter. Jim knows more than I do at this point.
Jim?
I really don't know. I just received a phone call from town council saying that he had been made aware through Adams that they had put in an insurance claim. And I was asked by town council to accompany the adjuster to the rooftops and, you know, show him and answer his questions and show him, you know, stuff that we had. He also has all the pictures and everything that he had requested from town council that they have. So he had all of that stuff in his file, and we're just moving forward. I'm not exactly sure what the claim is, you know, is stating or saying, and they didn't fill me in on that information when they were up there last Friday.
I'm sure it's Matt again. I'm sure the basis of the claim is essentially, you know, their defense to the demand letter sent by Rick Holland a month or so ago, demanding the new RTUs be installed. So I'm assuming that's just their legal recourse and getting their ducks in a row for wherever this moves next.
Jonathan, this is Al. You being the GC, shouldn't Adams be making you aware of what they're doing?
So they have, but this insurance thing just happened more recently. So they told us that they did it, but as far as giving us details, they have not. Not at this point.
Will you be following up with them before our next meeting on this issue?
Yes, I mean, I think this is something that needs to be discussed with Adams directly. I don't want to speak on their claims, so that's something that, again, we can set up. We tried to set up a meeting with Adams multiple times over the last few months, and it seemed to have failed. So if the town wants to work with us to get that done, we're willing to set it up and still are.
Okay, well, I think you being the GC and, you know, in charge, they should be responding to you to let you know what their intentions are.
Yes, and again, when we address the town about any of this, though, we'd like it to be coming from Adam's mouth, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, I guess anything else to report or discuss regarding the rooftop units at this time? Okay, commissioning, I think, Jonathan, you spoke about the items on the commissioning as you discussed the rooftop units. I will check back in with the commissioning agent on their perspective as well. Anybody, Jim, anything else from your end on commissioning or 5-star? Or the committee members?
No, there's not. You know, I think we're working with NV5 too on a couple of different things as far as the commissioning log itself, but there really isn't anything else to report. We're just really, you know, hoping to get a response from NV5 on a couple items, and then you know, we'll see how it goes. You know, I agree that there are certain items that are still open, and that you know, we're working on, or 5-star and Adams are working on getting those closed out on the log itself.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Al, on that. If we go through commissioning, how can they do the commissioning on these heaters, which have had nothing but problems since shortly after they were put in? How can you commission that? I mean, how would they be able to perform a commissioning test on anything when most of the time these things don't work. I mean, I guess, I don't know who I would need to ask this to, but that's just a question I have, is how the hell can we have a commissioning on something that seems to be very faulty at best? I mean, I would think that would show up in all the commissioning, or they wouldn't be able to commission, especially the rooftop heaters.
Good, Jim.
Yeah, there was, Peter, that's a good point. There were times that Scott was on site doing commissioning, and he was not able to because the unit was shut down. And this was going back to last summer when we were dealing with the air conditioning issues we had. It just so happens that Adams was on site that day, and the units were shut down, so he was unable to commission that part of his contract. He did come back after they were, they do get them running. They just don't stay running. So he'll come back, and it is noted on the commissioning log that there's a few different spots there that show that the units were shut down due to compressor failures or whatever it may be. It is in the log, and it has been noted by the commissioning agent on several occasions also.
When they come out and do their commissioning, and then the unit doesn't work and they have to come back out, are we paying more money for the commissioning to be done? Does anybody have that answer? I mean, how much more are we going to spend to get a guy out to commission something that keeps breaking while we're trying to get a commission, or shortly after the commissioning is done?
Well, I will say that the times that I've been in the building when this has happened, that he will just move on to another piece of equipment or move on to another section that he's able to do, and that remains open. And then, he had to do so much of a percentage of stuff. So when he comes back for his next visit, he goes back and checks, the stuff that he couldn't check the first time because the unit was shut down. That being said, he's checking certain points that make sure that those are working. He'll come up with, if there's any discrepancies, that goes on the log, or if it functioned properly at testing, it's on the log and it shows a completed item with his report. If it wasn't working, obviously he's not able to test it. But there in the log, there's reference to the units being shutting down on many, just throughout the whole log. The whole thing has been going on for a year now. There's references to the units being not running and not staying running, and issues we're having.
Well, I guess part of my concern is, so we get the heating units running, and then he commissions and they're running, and the day later or a week later, they're not working, and we have to have them fixed. I wouldn't want that to be used against us, because they can say, well, the commissioning agent said everything's fine, when in fact, everything isn't fine. So I am concerned about some of that. It just seems like we're chasing our tails here.
Yeah, I think, when he's doing his commissioning, he's checking on certain points in the system that are say, outside air dampers. Okay, he's going to test those, make sure that those are working properly, that they're, opening through the range that they're set to, the minimum, 10% or 5% is the minimum air taken into the building. He tests all that. Well, if the unit's shut down, he's unable to test that section of it, and he moves along to something else. When he goes back and the unit is up and running, and that section of the RTU that it was slated to be tested is now functioning and it is working properly, he's able to sign off on that, or if there is a deficiency, he's able to note it, which he has done on several occasions. And I think part of that is even these CO2 sensors that we're working on right now, that's been something that he wasn't able to verify because units were shut down, but now that he's there and it was running, he could detect that, well, wait a minute, you're supposed to have a CO2 detector here. It's not in place. You need to add that. So it made it on as a deficiency on the CAX or CX log. It's not signing off that the unit RTU 2 or 3 or 1 is totally 100% functional. It's just that part of it, which was part of the commissioning, is working properly at that time. The way it's written up and the way it is, this is an ongoing issue that's been going on, 6 months after we moved into the building. We made it through the first heating season. We moved in September. We never really tested the cooling end of it until that following summer, which was last summer. And we came up with all these issues that were discovered because we weren't able to discover them, back in September of last year. That's why, this is a whole separate ballgame as far as, the cooling end of this and why it's going to, go on, quite frankly, probably all this summer too, because we have to get back into the warmer months and get the things turned back on and find out what's going on. And we couldn't do that during the winter months.
Okay. Thank you, Jim and Peter, for that discussion. And anything else, committee members or others regarding the commissioning discussion? If something comes up, we can come back to it.
If Fred's got his hand up, go ahead, Fred.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, not for that, but I have to jump off at 10. I have another commitment, or a few minutes before that. Is it possible to discuss, I know it's out of order, and I apologize, the ADA and the door, anything to do with that while I'm still here, if you have any questions for me?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, committee members, so item 3A, Roman numeral 5, and 3B, Roman numeral 3, ADA, AAB, the variance application, and the other item we talked about was 3 doors were listed as potentially receiving automatic door openers, 2 at the public bathrooms and 1 in the police department. Were those the 2 items, Fred, you'd like to speak about or have an answer?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
So I can speak briefly to the first one if you'd like. Albeit I'm not sure if Brian's on the call or not. Brian Hughes.
It was earlier, he had to leave.
Okay, so I did speak to Brian about that, and I've talked to Jim Stewart. And I apologize, I don't have an exact answer for you, but basically the variance application through the state, from my understanding through Brian, is that it's kind of on hold right now. We're kind of in a holding pattern. So one of the things that Brian would need to go back to the state to make an argument for this is a cost estimate on what it would cost to actually repair the handrails and the stairwells. So I've talked to Jim, and he's graciously accepted the assignment, I believe. I'll have him speak, but of trying to come up with a quote or price to see what that was. Once we get that information, that would be forwarded to Brian, and then Brian would go back to the board and see if they could take up the appeal from there. That sound about right, Jim?
Yeah, that is correct. That's the way, that's where we're at right now. I'm trying to get some prices together to submit back to Brian and Fred so that they can go on with the variance and see how they're gonna allow it or not allow it. So I've reached out to Peter for some help with a company to come in and evaluate what has to be done and give us an accurate price. There's a lot of moving parts with that. We're going to need, you're going to be welding in a building. The fire suppression is going to be turned off. The alarms are going to be turned off. You need fire watches. There's a lot of moving parts on getting this whole quote put together. So, I will have it for you guys by the next meeting for sure. And Fred, hopefully I'll have a copy to you, much before that, so we can get Brian back, on with the state.
So the bottom line is that's an ongoing matter, and it hasn't been forgotten, but it may be a month or so before that gets resolved. And, I don't want to speak for Brian, but that's kind of the upshot of where we are on that, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
And then if you want to move on to the 3 doors, if you have any questions for me on that one.
Was the thought, Fred and Jim, while those doors were identified as the solution would be to put in automatic door openers. Was there a discussion on a holding pattern, wait and see approach? And if necessary, put them in the future, but for the time being, do nothing?
Well,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Fred. I think that, me and Fred have talked about this, and we do have the quote, what it's going to cost to do it. But I think, and Fred, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, please chime in, that, we had decided that until there's a complaint, if one ever does come forward, that we would kind of, put this on the back burner, and, not go ahead and spend the $10,000 it would cost to put these openers on these doors at this time. Is that correct, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, we did that with the other items. The board seemed to be okay with that. The committee seemed to be fine with that. So I'd say these 3 doors got singled out originally from the report, and that's where it kind of came up with conversation with the committee. And Jim went out and got the price. I'm still sort of the mindset that we can wait until we get a complaint. I mean, is that the best idea? Probably not. I don't know, but it's. We haven't had any large complaints even remotely on any of these areas yet. Again, my recommendation at this point is to see what happens. If it becomes an issue, then we can certainly address it. And we'd have to as a town person.
Would it make you feel better, Fred, if we took a vote of the board here to see, which way we want to go with it?
Yeah, because those 3 doors got singled out from the rest of the report. The committee's already spoken on the rest of the issues that I identified, but those 3 got it singled out initially, and then this is kind of the follow-up to that.
Right. Does anybody want to make a motion if we want to do a wait and see on this and put it on the back burner, see if any complaints come in the future, then we'll address it?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Peter.
Do we have a total for the 3 doors? Was it 10,000? Jim said something about 10,000. Or is that 10,000 per door? I don't remember the paperwork coming through, but it could have.
I believe it was 10,000 for all 3 doors.
Okay.
There might be a little bit more there because we need to bring power to each one of those locations, which was not part of Stanley's quote. They're assuming that power would be, right there above the ceiling or where they're going to be mounting. And we would need to have an electrician, provide the power to the unit. So there is a little bit more to it. We do have a good town electrician now, so we figured we would utilize his talents and try to save the town some money that way. If it was ever decided that we would move forward with this.
So the 10,000 is basically for the hardware.
And the installation, correct.
But not the electrical.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, all right, I'll make a motion that we hold off taking any action on this till a later date. Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Ian, second. All right, do we have any further comments on this or questions?
I do have a question on the cost of this. If it's 10 grand plus electrical, where are we at the bottom line right now on our budget? Because I hate to spend money like anybody else, but if it's 10, say it's 15,000, I have no idea what the electrical work is going to cost. I know in municipal work, it's a heck of a lot more than residential, but I'm almost of the mindset that we should do the damn thing and be done with it. But I don't mind waiting right now, but I'd like to get, I see Peter's got that highlighted. If that's 169,944 uncommitted, available in our budget, I'd like to just do it. I think we should turn this building over with as many things done as possible. But I'm okay with holding until we get further down on the bottom line. But I really would be for doing it.
I do want to just mention that the 3 doors that are in question are the woman's room doors on the 2nd and 3rd floor that enter the bathroom there, And then the third one is on the first floor. If you've gone by where the chief's office is, the roll call room, there's a door right next to the roll call room that actually goes out to the back door, a little vestibule area, and also to the galley where the radiant heat panels were coming down. It's that door right there. Those are the three doors in question. The two in the women's room have the exact same issues. It's a clearance issue. We don't quite have enough room from the where the opener is, where the doorknob is, to the jamb, I believe it is, and that's why it was out of compliance, and the easy fix, rather than to change all the framing and move the door over, was to put a door opener on it. So those are the three locations: the two women's rooms, second and third floor, and on the first floor in the police area.
Jim, I got a question on the one in the police area. Is that, what does that door go to?
It's a fire door, so it blocks the stairwell there that goes downstairs on the other side of the door. And then if you were to go, Al, you obviously know where the roll call room is. The door is right there that goes out towards the back door.
So that's not key card operated?
No.
Okay. Well, like I said, I made a motion, Ian seconded, but we have not voted on it. Do we have another motion by anybody? Or we can take a vote on that, and then if somebody's got another motion to do the work now, we can go with that.
Al, I think to Peter's point, I mean, I'm in agreement, but I think as Peter said, let's hold on. I mean, we have other things going on now. The money, while we have money there, I think let's see what other things come up, and if that money is still there, maybe we can vote at another meeting. But I do still agree with your motion that we hold off for now.
Okay.
With spending that money.
All right, so the motion will stay then. With Ian seconded. Do we have any other further comments on this? Okay, with none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ian?
Johnson, yes.
Peter O'Neill?
Yes.
Jim Stewart?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
Al Gordon, yes. So that's just to put this off to a further time. It's not saying we're not going to do it. It's just putting it off, and we'll revisit this.
Thank you.
Back to you, Peter.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I think that's it for the building commissioner. Fred, if you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you all.
The next item was just under old business, was just continued discussion. I can remove it going forward, but until further notice, I thought I'd leave on the carport roof drains and gutters.
I was thinking of that.
So I did receive the cost back for the electrical end of that. I don't have the figure right in front of me, but somewhere around $27,000, I believe it was, for the electrical end. And the gutters, I used Fox Gutter, and we've been playing a real poor game of phone tag, trying to get back and forth with each other. He sent me a couple of text messages. I called him, left him a message. We just haven't settled. So as far as having that price of the gutters, I do not have it. I have an idea of what it's going to come in as, but I'd rather wait until I see his official quote before I do. I will say it's going to be an expensive, $27,000 just for the electrical end of it. It's going to be an expensive project.
Andy can't do that.
Moving forward.
Jim, that $27,000, is that just for the heating elements, or does that include the wiring for the lighting, that additional lighting?
That was just to take care of the heating elements. All of the wires need to be pulled. The conduits are in place, but they need to be pulled from, basically the front of the building, the front corner of the building where the electrical room is, from there all the way back to the carport. And then all the gutters would have wires in them. The bottom of all the downspouts, the 2 downspouts would have wires, or 4 downspouts would have wires in them, as well as the bottom 2 feet of the roof. And that was obviously to keep everything from freezing and plugging up and not working anyway. My personal opinion, and this is just an opinion, I think it's an awful lot of money for something that I'm not even sure that's going to solve our whole problem. These heating elements, from what I'm told from the electric company, they're not going to bear the roof off. They're not going to keep it in a bared thing. It will keep, the snow will still be up there. There'll be water running underneath and water running in the gutters and everything. There's still going to be times when, the snow is going to slide off the roof, which is what we're trying to eliminate through all of this. And I'm just not sure that this investment is the right way to be approaching this. We have, we thought we could do it with 2 downspouts. I'm told by Fox that that's not going to work. It's going to have 4 downspouts. So now you have more excavation to get the water, underground and into the catch basins. It's going to turn into, just with the, almost $30,000 for the electric alone, it's going to turn into quite an expensive proposition to do it. And I'm not even quite so sure it's going to solve the problem. So, we got some people putting our heads together, trying to come up with other ways. I've looked at, possibly changing, the way that the roof is even pitched, to try to do it. And what would that cost to do something like that and invert the roof rather than have it, so that the center is lower and the outsides are higher and would it be cheaper to do it that way? Then we wouldn't have any of this issue happening. Nothing would be sliding off the roof. It's just there's a lot of moving parts to try to get this all together. We did make it through this winter. Myself and Danny and Wayne, we went out there with roof rakes after every storm and pulled everything down and tried to keep it cleaned off. It's more work. Did still some snow come down and there was some refreezing, yes, but I think the officers did a good job of, we did supply sand and salt, and when they felt the need that they did spread it, and we made it through this winter. And hopefully we'll have some type of a solution before, winter comes next year. But I'm just, the more I'm getting into this, the more I feel like maybe these roof gutters are not the correct answer to solve the problem.
Well, we've got a little bit of time now because obviously, we're out of the winter time, but we have to do something there. I mean, we've lost one officer who, potentially may be having to retire because of an injury from falling out back. But I think it's something we definitely have to address.
Can I ask Jim a question on that, Al?
Go ahead, Pete.
Jim, is there a life expectancy on these heat coils or heat cables?
So it's a good point, Peter. Obviously, you're opening up a maintenance issue with these, right? Because they're just wires; they can break. Ice can tear them. So a life expectancy. I mean, in a perfect world, you probably get 5-6 years out of them. I'm guessing. Of course, that can change with ice damage. If things slide down and it rips a wire off and you got to go up and repair it, you got an ongoing maintenance issue for sure. You have to be very careful using a roof rake. We found out at the country club that we had the same, the eaves were heated on the country club, and when over the years people going up with roof rakes, they've ripped the wires down, so now the thing's not functioning at all. So it's a good point. Yes, it's definitely an ongoing maintenance issue that'll come up, and every 5 years it's not going to cost $20,000, but to replace sections of the wire, probably they burn out and need to be replaced. Yes.
So Jim, from you, we're gonna need 3 quotes then. We're gonna need the electrical, we're gonna need the gutter people, and we're also gonna need the excavation people for putting the drains down under the ground.
Yep, I've been in touch with John Fryer, and the electrical people are all set. I have Fox Gutter, who've been very good. They've actually been back on site 3 different times because they tried to get it to work with just 2 downspouts, and it's just any way that they tried to pitch it, it's too long of a length. It's 85 feet. It's too long of a length. And so now we're at the point where they're telling me it needs 4 downspouts. Which, when I talked with John Fryer, we were going on the assumption it was going to be 2. So now it's just a whole different ballgame. His price is going to have to be adjusted as well. So it's ongoing, and I will have an answer for you. I'm also hoping to have possibly another approach, at correcting this also. But I will have these prices for you for sure.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you very much, everyone, for that discussion. Moving down, we're done with 3A. 3B, we talked about number 1, the radiant heat panels. We discussed that earlier. The other item mentioned was from the facilities director. There was an observation that there was some missing isolation or shut-off valves at the VAVs. And I know I put something out to 5-Star identifying that, and just curious if anybody had any new updates on that, or Jonathan or Matt and or Jim, if you want to add anything.
So John with 5-Star here. Adams actually did send back some information this morning, and the valve that was installed was actually to be both, and it was a specialty valve, and they did send the specifications for it. So I will be forwarding that over this afternoon.
Okay.
Jonathan, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. It was what are they sending you? What kind of a valve was it?
So the balancing valve that was installed was a specialty balancing valve that its purpose is to also be a shutoff valve, and they've sent the specifications showing that.
Okay. I'd like to see those when you get a chance to send it over to me. Just talking with my HVAC maintenance contractor, typically it's and I don't know the way this valve works. Maybe it's set up differently from any other balancing valve, but typically it's bad practice to use balancing valves as an isolation valve. And I think that in the specs, that's why it did show both. Because you shut that down to remove the VAV or do some work to the VAV, and then you put it back and it doesn't get in the system is balanced for a reason. If you start, shutting off different valves all over the place, it throws off the balance, and pretty soon things aren't working the way they're supposed to. So I'd like to see the specs on that. And was this something that was approved through the BVH and something, or did they just take it upon themselves to go ahead and do it?
It should have been approved, and I can speak on what you were saying about putting it back in the same position. So this valve has almost like a counter on the top. It's a digit marker. So when you do use it as a shutoff, you can then click it back to the same digit to put it in its exact location that it was at before it was used. So that's why this is a special type of valve, and it can be used for both purposes.
But I think you must agree that if a change was made like that, that needed to be run by design and engineering and get an approval. I believe that's the way it should work. They shouldn't just, we can get this valve and save ourselves, some time with putting in 2. So it should have been approved by someone, I believe, correct?
Yeah, and most likely it was. I don't have anything pulled up right this moment. The diagrams that were sent were just standard diagrams showing any basic install, so it wasn't even connected with Forbes. So we'd have to look at exactly what was in the plan.
Okay.
I agree with you.
So that drawing did come from the documents, Jonathan. They did apply to Forbes.
All right, Adams was saying that was just a basic diagram, and that, you would see that on every installation.
There was a detail coming off the contract documents.
Okay, we'll take a second look.
Jonathan, you're going to forward that to both Peter and to Jim?
Yes, absolutely. It was going to be a formal response, but we had just got it this morning before the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, committee members, that's pretty much what I had listed for project updates. If it's okay, move down the list. Item 4 is just the change order log, pretty much unchanged from the previous ones. And then the project budget, as shown here, it's multiple pages with the bottom line we talked about earlier. Row 639, the remaining uncommitted balance as highlighted, as discussed. There's no questions on that. Those 2 items, I can move down to the next item. New business, general discussion, or any other comments?
Yes, so I just wanted to bring up the pay recs again. We sent out a couple emails and received no response. So we have to see them be brought forth to be voted on. There was the last 2 pay recs that were approved, and they're months out and past due now.
I believe, Jonathan, the 5-star office has received a response to that from Westborough, but if you'd like, I will follow up with that.
Yes, because we have not received one.
Your office has not received any response to those?
Correct. The last one was approved by Brian Humes, and he had forwarded it back to your attention, and then there was no response.
There was, and I will follow up with another response.
Okay.
Okay. Any other business?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions from the last meeting or the meeting before. The wrong colored tile in the bathroom. What is the status on that right now?
It's on the punch list, Peter. All
right, because
as far as row 20 right here, if you don't mind, I'll put an arrow on it. It's right here.
I wish I could read it, but even with glasses, it doesn't look like anything to me.
It was basically accepted, but with reservation.
When you say it was accepted, the color was accepted with reservations?
The replacement installation.
So we
well, with respect to the review by the building commissioner, the facilities director, and the OPM on March 5th, these items that are shown in gray that are struck through, we basically said not much more we can do. We don't necessarily like it, but I think we'll have to accept it, but with reservation. And with reservations, that's probably going to have another discussion at another time with the building committee and the town of Westborough on some of these items.
All right, well, I'm just from the list that we got along a while ago that the wrong colored tile, I won't accept that. I mean, it absolutely mind-boggling to me that somebody would grab the wrong tile, put it in and say close enough and we'll accept it because it's tile and it's done. And I don't buy that. I won't buy that. If the tile was in the cellar in our attic stock or whatever it is, then it should have been the right tile replaced. And I know it's a little thing in this big project, but it pisses me off to have to know that. And I won't sign off on it, but I don't know that I have any authority to or not to, but that's just me. The other thing I had was the limestone repair on outside. Have we, the leak that was in the lintel that goes across the, I don't even know how to explain it, but the decorative lintel that's in the building where water may have been coming in to the back corner of the building, has that been addressed? Because I thought we were supposed to have the whole building not, I don't want to say watertight, but water resistant, I guess. I don't know what the right word would be. But what is the status on that?
Well, the limestone repair is still on the punch list as incomplete work.
Okay. I don't know whether I'll ever live long enough to see this stuff done. And I know we had a thing about thermostats on the vestibule heaters. Has that been taken care of? It says now complete, I guess, but I had it highlighted on my list.
No, we had that, sorry. It's still on the punch list, Peter, I'm sorry. Right here, let me highlight this, 1 second. We have it here, row 10. Thermostat cabinet unit heater in the vestibule 103, not working. So that remains open on the list that we observed on March 5th.
All right, so this goes back, I think, even further than March 5th. I think it goes back to January. And maybe I'm talking about the wrong thing. I don't know.
No, when I say March 5th means that's the date we updated the punch list. The item has been on the list for several times previous, but as of March 5th, it remained an item.
That's fine, Peter. I didn't understand that, but still, back in January, we at least knew about it, and it still hasn't been repaired, and here we are. What the hell month is this? April. It just seems like an awful long time to get that fixed.
Agreed.
Jim, is that still the same status?
Yes, it is. We physically have to go out and shut the unit. It either runs full bore or it's off. We have to physically go out and shut it off every day, or if we have a cold morning, we go out and turn it on, let it run for an hour or two, get the chill out of the lobby there, and then we go out and shut it off.
Is that another Adams issue?
Yes.
Surprise.
Boy, mountain up.
I would like to, as I'm looking at the thing, Peter, for the punch list, the next item down, number 12, the final door cores, we're missing on 157. That is still an open item. I have checked. We do not have any cores. What came in, I saw cores on an envelope, and I looked, and they were actually core keys, so that I can remove the take the cores out and in of the lock cylinder. So as far as the town having any spare cores, I do not.
Okay.
Because it says in the comments, Westborough to check. I have checked, and we do not have any cores. So that number 157 still has a red construction core still in it.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
I was actually going to say that, Ken, that wasn't on the previous punch list going back through January. It was actually added. I just want to clarify on that. The only thing that was on there is that there was a thermostat that was loose connected to the CUH. And
Jonathan, I think if you talk to Wesley, he's worked on that unit a couple of times, and they're aware of this. This is something that's been going on for a long time, and Wesley is aware of it. And it wasn't something that was added. It was something that was always there. They went back and they fixed. The other three now are working properly. They made some adjustments and fixed the other three. This particular one, which is the entrance on the Parker Street side, the front entrance to the building, it's always been like this. We've always had an issue with it since day one. So it's not.
If this is something you were working with Adams on, I understand that, but I'm clarifying that it was not a punch item and it has been added.
Jonathan, just the room 103 was added. The cabinet unit heaters have always been listed.
I'm looking at the old one, Peter, and I'm not seeing it. That's why I bring it up. It's in my response that I gave for the punch list.
So even though it's not working, you don't own it?
I'm saying that it's not ever been a punch list item and it's newly added.
Okay. I'll send you some previous issues and show you where it was listed prior. Nonetheless, it's not proper, it's not working, it's incomplete. Okay, anything else for general discussion, committee members? We're still on, Mr. Chairman, committee members, we are on item 5, open discussion. If there's none, item 6, there's no invoices at this time. And item 7, just looking ahead, the next meeting, the first Wednesday of the month, which is May 5th.
Everybody in agreement with the 5th of May? Cinco de Mayo?
That
Good thing
works
we're
for me.
meeting early.
I just have a question. Are we able now, as we move forward with this pandemic, to start meeting in person again? I mean, we have the Great Hall available to us, which is, it's a large enough room, and we absolutely can social distance in that room. I mean, I don't know if anybody's interested in that or not. But is that something that's going to be coming up, Al? Have you heard any discussion or anything? Or maybe Ian, you can chime in. Is this something that we're going to possibly start going back to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a discussion that we've had at the selectmen's level and looking at it. I think, maybe not for this next meeting. I think, as you know, the delay in going full kind of back to work, even for town hall, got delayed. Town manager will push that out to the 5th right now at this point, just because of the recent uptick. So definitely something we're talking about. We're talking about the selectmen and how we do it. So I think we should think about that, but it may be the June meeting might be a more appropriate meeting for that.
Right. I think we probably should just go at the direction of the selectmen. When the board decides that they're going to go with full attendance, we can probably adjust ours to the same kind of meeting.
I hope I can find town hall by then.
Okay. Is that everything? Anybody else got anything they want to address? Okay, hearing none, I guess next meeting will be on May 5th, 8:30 a.m. Take a vote to adjourn. Ian?
Yes.
Peter O'Neill?
Yes.
Jim Stewart?
Yes.
Earl?
Yes.
Al Gordon, yes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Al.